All right. The next step you're going to do is you're going to import your first images. So now that you've seen the Lightroom catalog, you've seen how to create that catalog, you've seen the platform here just in the library. We're not getting into those other ones yet, but just in the library. We're going to import your first photos. So if you have a camera attached to your computer, if you've plugged in an SD card, if you have images that are already on the computer that you want to bring into this digital catalog, you're going to click on the import button. Now it's going to tell me to select a source. I don't have a hard drive plugged into this computer right now. I don't have an SD card plugged in. I don't have a camera plugged in, but I do have some photos on my computer that I want to import. Now it's also telling me that it's going to automatically use the pictures folder. Again, we don't want to do that. The pictures folder is going to basically bury and hide our images. So we're going to put our images into a desktop folder on our own. So I'm going to tell it, okay, sure, use the pictures folder. We're going to figure that out here in a second. Now, if we want to bring in some images, right? So here we see this OS. It's telling us what source do we want to pull from. Now, a lot of times you can just click on this where it says select a source, and I would just click on desktop, because that's where I have my images. So if I wanted to bring in some of the clip art that I have, if I wanted to bring in some of the other things that I have, you don't have to bring in just photos, right? Anything that is labeled a JPEG, a PNG, a RAW file, like a Canon CR2, a Nikon NEF, or a Sony ARW. You can bring those in. Now, I have another folder that I've called Lightroom, and I have some images within that Lightroom folder. So if I open that up, I'm going to go into my client Mackenzie, and I'm going to bring in Mackenzie's images. Now, you'll notice that all of the images are selected. There's a check mark on each one of these. I can uncheck all, I can check all, and I can also choose to take a couple of those off. Generally speaking, bring in every photo. You want every photo, including the bad photos, including the photos that are underexposed, including the photos that are overexposed, the blurry ones, the ones that you thought were going to be really great on the back of your camera, but as it turns out, maybe not so much when you brought them in here. The other thing you can do is you can sort them. So you can sort them by capture time or file name. I like to do capture by or import by capture time, because then it shows me the organization, right? It shows me exactly how we went through our session. All the images are grouped together, and I bring in every photo. So another thing that we want to do is when we bring it in, we want to tell it where we want it to go. So you can add it to your catalog. Let's say you've already saved it onto your desktop folder and you don't need to make a copy of it, or you want it to stay in its original folder. Copying as a DNG will bring it in as a digital negative, which is going to be a file that can be read for years and years to come. It's more of a generic file at that point, not coded specifically to Canon or specifically to Nikon. Copy will put a second copy of your images into this new folder that you're creating. That's going to take up a lot of space in your computer, so I don't usually recommend doing copy. Move means it's going to take it from one folder to another. So if you have it on an SD card and you tell it to move, it's going to take them off of the SD card and put them onto the computer, so that then it's only in one spot. This is going to take up the least amount of space, but if you accidentally click move and you're moving something from a folder where it needed to be, this can get really confusing. So add is generally my go-to, or copy as DNG. Now the next piece here is I'm going to change my catalog. I don't just want it to go into my catalog, I actually want it to create a new spot. So I'm going to tell it to copy as DNG, and I want to tell it where I want it to save, because I do not want to use the pictures folder. So I'm actually going to come in here and click on the little drop down arrow, and I'm going to go other destination. And then I'm going to go away from my OneDrive, because my OneDrive is very limited, and I'm going to go to my desktop. I have a lot of space on this computer, and I'm going to create a folder. Now I have a folder called Lightroom, right? So I don't necessarily need to copy as DNG into this folder, because I already have a catalog that has the images in there. It's already on my computer. But let's say I hadn't done this before. I probably would. I would probably go and just click on my Lightroom folder and tell it to select that folder. Then within there, I'm going to tell it don't import suspected duplicates. So if it sees that I've already imported these images before, it's going to gray those out, and that's beautiful. The other piece to it is I want to rename my files. If they're coming in as some random untitled file, or they're coming in as img_0247-5, right? That doesn't tell me what this is, and if I go to search for it, I'm not going to find it. So I actually want to save myself time and save you time. And we're going to make a custom name. And you're going to bring this in as your custom name as what you would be turning your images in, named as. So we're going to go custom name. And we're going to go to edit. And this is going to save you a ton of time later on. So I'm just going to delete everything that's on there. And I'm going to tell it, I want it to save as, let's say I have 6 class periods. And this is, I'm in class period number 2. I would put on there P2 for class period number 2, P2, underscore, shift dash, right, underscore. And then I'm going to put in a couple of things here. So I can insert custom text without actually writing it down. So I'm going to put my name on there first, right? So I'm going to put on my name. And then I'm going to put another underscore. And then I'm going to put in custom text. And I'm going to do that by clicking insert. Okay? See how it has these kind of fancy brackets around the outside? That means that when I come back over here to the right-hand side of my screen and I want to title my shoot, I'm just going to go in here and type in where it says untitled, I'm going to type in Mackenzie because that's my client's name and that's going to be really easy for me to find later on. So I have P2 underscore umberger underscore custom text underscore, and now I'm going to put a number and I want to do a sequence number. So here's the thing. If you do a sequence number and you only have 1 digit, it can only do 1 digit, right? So you get to 9 and it just starts renumbering them again from 1. And then it gets really confusing. Don't do that. If you have 2 digits, right? Again, if you have more than 99 images, that's going to become really complicated again. So I like to bring in the sequence of 3 digits. Now, if you're shooting weddings or if you're shooting something else, you might do a larger sequence like 4 digits. But for a classroom, you probably only ever need 3 because you're never going to take more than 999 photos in a single session. Please don't. In fact, just don't. 999 photos is way too many for any assignment you're going to do in any photo class ever. So here we go. Now it looks like it's going to put a hashtag in there for that pound sign, but that's just a placeholder. It just says this is going to insert a number, and then this is showing you it's going to have 3 digits. It's not going to have the parentheses. It's not going to have the hashtag. It's not going to have the arrows. So we're going to say done. Cool. Now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say custom text Mackenzie. Okay. And then extensions leave as is. And it's showing you an example right here. It's going to say P2 underscore umberger underscore Mackenzie underscore 001. Then we're going to scroll down. Here's where you can add keywords. So if I were bringing this portrait session in, I might put in portrait. That's going to help me find portraits later. I put a comma in between and a space. I might put her name, right? So I might put Mackenzie, because even though the file is named Mackenzie, if I were to upload it to the internet, sometimes these keywords will be embedded into the image. So I want to have that there. I may also put in senior portrait. Now this can have spaces because this is just embedding it into the image. It's not actually a title. I could also put the location. Okay, I could put in the state, I could put in the year, I could put in, that it was raining, because that was something that was really interesting. We took photos in the rain, right? We went to a beach, we were in the forest. These are just things to help me find images later on. So let's say I had a client later on who said, hey, do you have any examples of a forest that you've shot in? Or have you ever shot at this specific location? Then I could easily just go into my catalog, search for forest, search for beach, search for the specific location, and then I could bring it up and show them. Yes, of course, I have shot in these locations, and here's what it's looked like in the past. Okay, so there's just some examples of what you can put in. And then what I like to do is I put into a subfolder. This is where organization comes into play for you. How do you want to organize this? For school, I typically tell students to organize by project, right? So you might call it the title of the project. In this case, it might be my client's name. I already have a Mackenzie folder. I'm going to call this Mackenzie 2 since I already created a version and I told you I'm just making a copy of these images and bringing them in right now to show you for this video. So once I've done all of that, you can see it's going into my desktop, into Lightroom, and not into a catalog folder, but into its own folder. So Mackenzie 2, and you can see it's grayed out. It's telling you it's going to add this folder. And I'm just going to click on import. It's going to bring in all of our images, and we're going to see you in another video to talk about how to sort and rate your images. So we'll come back shortly.